What's up, amigos? Less than 4 days remaining. I didn't think I could get more excited, but here I am, and it just keeps building and building. Speaking about building, today we have the Upheaval Barbarian, and this one is going to be a good one, I think. So as always, if you guys are interested in more Diablo 4 content, hit that like button and subscribe. It helps the video get out to more people and helps the overall growth of the channel, which I greatly appreciate. So without further ado, let's get into this. So the beta, there was footage coming from the community that was showing players hitting hundreds of thousands of damage at level 25. It was absolutely insane. I leveled my first character in the beta with Upheaval actually, but had no idea how broken it was going to be. So hitting damage like that is of course min-maxing as much as we were able to at level 25 with full aspects, with affixes to scale, but that doesn't mean that the build isn't insane still. I even think that this build is going to be great for both group play and solo leveling. Like I said, I leveled with it in the beta and I was one-shotting almost everything with no gear. So let's just jump into this. Alright, so let's go over the pros and cons of the build. The first one is the obvious. It's extremely strong, both AoE and single target potential. We have a great amount of crowd control, which really is a minor defensive layer. It's great for leveling and it's great for group play. Not reliant on gear at all, but it scales incredibly well with the gear. Both aspects and just minor affixes will take this build to the next level. Now for the first con, it's the mobility. It's always the mobility, right? We don't really have any inherent movement speed through the passives. We only use charge for our movement speed or for our movement ability. Some might think it's also tedious. The way that you have to play this build is you have to make sure you're sustaining your Berserk, your crowd control, and vulnerable on your targets, and then you spam Upheaval. If you're not doing that, you won't see the big damage, and sometimes it'll be a struggle to kill enemies in World Tier 3, and I imagine World Tier 4 as well. The build, on paper, I mean, does look squishy, alright? We don't have a lot of defensives, we don't take Iron Skin, we don't take Rallying, so yeah, it does feel like more of a sturdy-ish glass cannon setup. And last but not least, everyone's favorite con, it's a melee class. If you watched my other video, the only reason that I like Lunging Strike is it's the only basic attack that we obviously get early on that grants us Berserking for 1.5 seconds. Berserking, if you aren't aware, is a barb only mechanic that gives you 25% damage increase and 30% movement speed, so as you can imagine, it's pretty disgusting. So Upheaval, the big bang skill, tearing up ground, flinging debris at your target, and with Enhanced Upheaval has a 20% chance to stun all enemies it damages for 2.5 seconds. With Violent Upheaval, if we damage at least 2 enemies, we gain Berserking for 2 seconds, increased to 3 seconds if it damages at least 4 enemies. So you also have an option here between these two modifiers. If you want to just focus solely on single target, you do have the option of Furious Upheaval, which when we deal direct damage with any skill other than Upheaval, we get a stacking damage buff for Upheaval. Stacks up to 10 times, you get 3% damage per time, obviously total of 30% increased damage. We use Ground Stomp in this build. Now the reason we use Ground Stomp in this build is solely for the stun. We want to stack as much CC and other things like Fortify and Vulnerable Infliction so we can get those massive numbers that people were getting in the beta. So here, with Ground Stomp, we stun all surrounded enemies for 3 seconds. That goes up to 4 with Enhanced Ground Stomp. And then with Tactical Ground Stomp, we actually get 25 Fury back when we use Ground Stomp. So Warcry. A mighty Warcry increasing our damage dealt by 15% for 6 seconds. This is also great in group play obviously because it does apply to nearby allies for 3 seconds. Enhanced Warcry. This is, again, insane because it grants us Berserking for 4 seconds. That is a long time actually to get our skills out to give us 30% movement speed and 25% increased damage. Global. Mighty Warcry grants us 15% base life as Fortify when we use Warcry. We also use Charge. Charge is our engage ability plus our obvious mobility skill, We knock enemies back, and if we knock them back into terrain, we stun them with Enhanced Charge, and then Mighty Charge makes them vulnerable for 2 seconds. So we don't take any points into Weapon Mastery, we go straight to our ultimate. And of course, our ultimate of choice, Wrath of the Berserker. Now, Wrath of the Berserker is hands down the best ultimate for barbs, I feel. I honestly don't even think it comes close because we just get a constant uptime of Berserk. And we're able to reapply it constantly and stack the duration to max of 5 seconds, I believe. And we just apply this through our Lunge Strike. It's our basic skills that generates it. And we already get a 1.5 seconds from Lunge Strike. So with Prime Wrath of the Berserker, we also give ourselves an increased movement speed by 20% while Wrath is active, and a 30% Fury gen. With Supreme Wrath of the Berserker, every 50 Fury we spend when Berserker or when Wrath of the Berserker is active, we increase our Berserk's damage by a bonus 25%. Again, every 50 Fury. So this could really stack up there. It's a ramping ability. So our Keystone passive, we are going back to Unconstrained. This increases Berserk's maximum duration by 5 seconds. Again, I think that by base it was already 5 seconds, so this means we can stack up to 10 seconds of Berserk. If you know for a fact that I am wrong here, feel free to let everyone know in the comment section down below. But the big thing here, not only is the max duration, but it also increases our damage bonus by 25%. And this isn't tied to Wrath, this is global. So when we get this Keystone passive in the build, anytime we use or pop Berserk from any of our abilities, we are gaining 50% increased damage and 30% movement speed. Now, there is another theory that I have, and it involves switching up the basic skill. Instead of running Lunge and Strike, we would run Frenzy. And that is because we could go Unbridled Rage. Now, this would obviously increase our Upheaval to an 80 Fury cost, but Upheaval would do another 135% increased damage. Just a little food for thought. I will have the link to the build planner in the written guide for both this build, obviously, and the other one involving Frenzy and Unbridled Rage. So let's go ahead and move on to our passives. So our passives are usually the same here. We are going to run 3 in Pressure Point. This is a lucky hit chance. Our core skills, aka Upheaval, will have a 30% chance, lucky hit chance, to make enemies vulnerable for 2 seconds. Just another source of vulnerable infliction it's always great to have. We run 3 into Endless Fury. Basic skills generate 15% more Fury when using two-handed weapons. This build is all about hitting extremely hard, so always use two-handers over just dual building. We use Imposing Presence. This is a staple in all Barbarian builds. This is insane. You just gain 15% additional max life. This is going to scale like crazy as a flat value later on into the mid and late game. We take 3 points into Booming Voice. This increases our shout durations by 24%. In this case, it would be our War Cry. 1 point into Aggressive Resistance, we gain 3% damage reduction while berserking. This tethers into Prolific Fury, which while berserking, we gain an 18% bonus to Fury gen. And Battle Fervor, which is our core ability here to upkeep berserking with our charge. When a Brawling skill damages at least one enemy, we gain berserking for 3 seconds. That means when we engage with charge, we have the opportunity to knock back, stun the target if we knock back into terrain with Enhanced Charge, and we inflict vulnerable, and then we would just finish them all off with the scaling from Upheaval. We take 3 points in the Pit Fighter, 9% increased damage to close enemies, and gain 6% damage from distant reduction. This means all projectiles and such. No Mercy, 9% increased crit strike chance against immobilized, stunned, or slowed enemies. We are constantly trying to stun with the guaranteed stun behind Ground Stomp and the potential stun from charge. We take Slaying Strike, 22.5% increased damage against injured enemies. Injured enemies means 35% or less HP. We take a point into Thick Skin. Each time we take damage, we gain 0.4 base life as Fortified. this will add up. I know it doesn't seem like a lot, but it will add up. Counter offensive, while we have Fortify for 50% of our max life, we deal 12% increased damage. This is just an extra damage increase when we do stack up our Fortify. And don't forget, we do get 15% Fortify from Mighty Warcry. We take 3 points in the heavy-handed because, again, two-handed weapons. When we use in two-handed weapons, we deal 15% increased crit strike damage. So that's it for the build. Again, I do think this will be one of the strongest builds for Barb because of just the proof behind it. I mean, there was no nerf that came out for Upheaval. The community was posting videos of, again, doing hundreds of thousands of damage, and that's just if you have the perfect aspect setup, plus ranks, you know, all that good stuff. So the scaling is there, the potential is there. I promise you, this one is more of a known build more than a theory crafted build. And yeah, I mean, I personally can't wait to test it out. It's going to be extremely fun, just running around and one-shot and everything. So if you watched to the end here, I want to thank you all again for all the support lately, and until next time, amigos, take care.